Hello friends, it's Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead, and in today's video I'm going to show you all of the fun food that we're preserving and making during early July on the homestead. So the garden is really in production now. It is in full swing with summer crops. We're really harvesting cucumbers in abundance. Our garlic was done this week. The onions are almost done. We're just starting to get things like zucchini and green beans. The tomatoes and peppers are coming on, but are not quite ripe yet. But it's such an exciting time. And so there's new fun foods that we're able to make out of this fresh goodness coming from the land. And so as we're harvesting and pulling out some of the spring crops, this bed right here that I'm working on had our romaine lettuce that is now officially done. I'm able to amend the beds and clean them up and then plant new things in their place. In my zone right now in July, I can still put bush beans in the ground and I'll have enough time. They take about 60 days to maybe, 50 to 60 days to get a good harvest from, and there's plenty of time to do that before the first frost that we'll have that is in mid-October. So things like zucchini, cucumbers, bush beans, those types of things I'm still able to plant. And then once the weather cools a little bit in August, we'll be able to put in more cold weather crops like greens, more lettuce, radishes, and other things like cilantro that might have bolted in the heat at this point in the summer. But like I said, cucumbers are the main crop right now. I go out there every day and fill a little basket of everything that is mature enough to bring inside the house. My kids love to eat them just sliced and salted with their lunches. Every day we've been having those. But we often have too many to eat before they start to go soft. So we've been making pickles, and that's what I want to show you in this video is a really easy way to make pickles if you're intimidated by canning pickles and that's something you're not interested in. This is the method that you should do. It is so easy. So I grabbed some cucumbers, some dill, and our first little beginnings of green beans. It wasn't quite enough for a full meal. This was just the first amount in one little bed that I had. So we are going to also make some pickled green beans or dilly beans out of this tiny first harvest. So let's go ahead and get busy. There are many ways that you can make pickles. As I mentioned, you can can them. My family is we are not fans of canned pickles. The texture of them just isn't our favorite. We do like to make refrigerator pickles with a vinegar base, but one of the easiest way to make pickles is by lacto-fermentation. And if you aren't aware of what that is, it's basically just fermenting your vegetables in a salt brine, like you do when you make sauerkraut and things like that, but you can do it pretty much with any vegetable. It produces healthy bacteria called probiotics and just makes a delicious pickle flavor, especially when we make it with some fresh dill here. I chopped and added some garlic scapes. If you don't have garlic scapes, you could add whole garlic cloves. If you have some hot peppers, they add some delicious flavor. You could also do onion if you like, but to keep it simple, we just add garlic scapes and dill, and then I like to add a bay leaf or an oak leaf or a grape leaf. That helps. There's something in the leaves, I believe they're called tannins, and they keep the pickles nice and crunchy. And you can even do that with your canned pickles, and it's really helpful. So then we're just going to slice our cucumbers and fill the jars here. And we're going to do the same with our beans. And then after you're done, you can add your brine. You can either add your salt to the bottom of the jar before you pour your water in, or you can mix the salt in with your water and pour it all over the top after you stuff your jars full. But the ratio of salt to water should be 2 tablespoons of salt per quart of water. And so that is what we do. You could obviously add more salt if you want them to taste more salty, but you don't want to do any less than 2 tablespoons of salt per quart of water, or you're going to risk your vegetables kind of rotting or molding as they're sitting out and fermenting on the counter. But that ratio ensures that it will be safe. And then you're just going to put a fermenting lid on top. I'm using an airlock system here that you can see. But if you don't have this, they sell fermentation lids that are made out of a silicone that have a little nipple on the top that releases the gas. Or you can just put a regular lid on top, but then you have to burp your ferment because the fermentation process releases a gas of carbon dioxide, And if you don't, I know people whose glass jars have literally exploded from the pressure of that glass and has sent glass shards all over in their kitchen. So whether you use an airlock or a different type of fermentation lid, or you burp it yourself by just opening the lid and releasing the pressure, you are going to need to do that to ferment your vegetables safely. So you can see here, after about just 24 hours of sitting there, all of our salt has dissolved, and you can see bubbling beginning to happen, and then big bubbles will come up out of our airlock here. That is that gas, that pressure that is releasing that would build up if you weren't burping your lid. And for me, it typically only takes about 3 days. It's usually anywhere from 3 to 5, but this week with the heat in the kitchen, 3 days was all it took to fully ferment. You can see that the brine gets a little cloudy, and that is absolutely normal. That is not a sign of spoilage. You want to see that. That means everything is fermenting beautifully. And so after 3 days, we were able to take off the fermentation lids, put on a regular lid, and stick them in the refrigerator, and then we're able to enjoy our pickles. These will last in the refrigerator. I've heard people say they last up to a year, but when we're making small batches like this, we'll be lucky if they make it through the day. But at least a couple months they would be safe in your fridge if your fridge is kept at the right temperature. And they taste like a dill pickle. They're like a Bubby's brand pickle, if you've ever had those in the store. Because there's no vinegar in them, they don't have a vinegar flavor. They're not like a canned pickle, but they're delicious and crisp. They have that garlic and dill flavor, and we absolutely love them. And the best thing is that they are a free source of probiotic for the children. These are so healthy for them. We do the same thing with green beans, and you can do this with any vegetable. So not only are they taking in great nutrition that was picked fresh, optimal nutrients, it wasn't heated to destroy any of the nutrients, but it has bonus nutrients of probiotics. So they're getting a little bit of that every day as they enjoy their snack here. So if making pickles is something that has intimidated you over the years, you don't want to can your pickles, this is just a really easy way to get started. And you don't even need to buy any equipment, like I said, if you want to use a regular lid and just once or twice a day release the gas that's building up by opening your lid, and you have pickles. You can do it, like I said, with any vegetable. This is the same process that you would use to make things like sauerkraut. You're just doing it with cabbage instead of cucumbers or green beans. But it's that salt brine that makes this safe. And as long as your ratio of salt to water is correct, you don't have to worry about harming your family and creating a moldy product or having it rot or anything like that. Salt water is a preservation method, and this is one of the old ways that we used to preserve food before canning. Before we continue with the video, I want to take a quick minute to thank the sponsor of today's video, and that is Backwoods Home Magazine and their sister magazine, Self-Reliance Magazine. I just got my new copy of Backwoods Home, and I'm very excited. I was leafing through. They have a whole section on homestead dogs, which interests me as a dog lover. You guys know we have our livestock guardians that we love. There's a section on chickens. There's a whole section on fermenting. So if the information in this video about fermenting interested you, this is something that you would really like. It's all about making sauerkraut and troubleshooting different issues that you have with it. So I just find that if you like the content that I'm putting out in my videos, the information in this magazine would be of great interest to you. And thankfully, Backwoods Home has been kind enough to offer my subscribers 50% off a yearly subscription to either Backwoods Home or their sister publication, Self-Reliance. There's a link in the video description and a pinned comment that can take you to their website, and you can learn more about everything that they have to offer. This is a tried and true homesteading resource. It's been around for over 30 years, offering support and guidance for anything you can think about when it comes to preserving food, growing food, building up your homestead, actually building things from scratch, teaching your children even about the importance of homesteading. So once again, thank you to Backwoods Home, and now let's get back to another way we've been using up our cucumbers is just in a basic cucumber salad. I like to add onion, tomato, cucumber, dill, and red wine vinegar and a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper. It's so delicious, but the kids are really getting sick of that. Thankfully, other vegetables are starting to become available. It's not just cucumbers that I'm trying to force feed them every meal. We have lovely zucchini, and besides baking with it, my kids love zucchini bread, so I'm making a lot of that lately. But we're also making fried zucchini as a side dish for our meals. I've been experimenting with our new air fryer, and that's been fun. But I'm so excited that the garden is starting to churn out these summer vegetables that we've looked forward to eating for so long. The tomatoes, we're getting so close to having ripe cherry tomatoes. That's one of my favorite snacks in the summer. And so it is really neat to see all of this food that we planted such a long time ago starting to become available for us to eat. And one of the first things we planted in this year's garden was our garlic. And that actually happened back in October of 2024. You plant garlic the fall before you're going to harvest it in the following summer. And so it's been a long time waiting and watching these garlic plants come to life and grow. We were fortunate to be able to harvest all of those garlic scapes last month, and we're still using them like you saw in the pickles. And I'm using them in stir fries and pestos and all sorts of things. But when you notice that the bottom leaves of your garlic plant are starting to brown, while the tops are still green, you know that it's time to harvest them. And so I grabbed a couple helpers and we ran out there and we are getting busy. We had 3 beds of garlic to harvest, and I'm very excited about that. This actually feels a little earlier than usual, maybe 1 to 2 weeks earlier than we typically harvest our garlic, but that is just fine. The weather has been very strange this year. It was kind of cold and then it got super hot, so all of the plants are having different results this year than they typically have. But I have found there were 2 beds of garlic that I planted with mulch over the winter to protect them. And then I was pregnant last fall when I planted this, and I just got big and busy and forgot to mulch the 3rd bed. And come to find out this year that the bulbs from the unmulched bed are massive. That I showed you one against my hand in that first bed that we were harvesting. And the bulbs from the beds that were mulched are much smaller. So I'm going to test that theory out again this year when I plant it and leave 2 beds unmulched and 1 with mulch and see if this was just a fluke or a coincidence or if there's actually something to this. I had been really worried that that unmulched bed would suffer from the cold temperatures, but it looks like it wasn't a problem at all. So I'm really excited about that. The garlic that I plant is typically music garlic. It's music variety. It is a scape producing hardneck garlic that stores really well for me. And that's the thing. You do want to look when you're planting things that you're going to put down in your cellar, things like onions or garlic or potatoes even and carrots. It really is important to make sure that the varieties that you plant are good for storage, because not all varieties are the same. They all have different strengths and weaknesses. But music variety has always done really well for me. We just used up one of our last bags of garlic from the previous year's harvest very recently, and so it held off. It didn't begin sprouting until late spring, and so the variety you choose really does matter for things like that. So we put our garlic down in the cellar and it is going to cure, and that means it's going to dry out. The outer layers of paper around the garlic bulb will dry out to prevent rot, and then in future weeks' videos I'm going to show you how we're going to store this for the winter, but it needs to cure first. Another thing that we were able to harvest on the homestead this week were our gooseberries. Now, it was a tiny little amount, not even enough to really do anything with, but it's super exciting. Our orchard is very young. Many of our trees are just 2 or 3 years old. We do have some apple trees that are closer to 5 years old that are starting to produce enough fruit to do something significant with. But we just had our first little harvest of gooseberries, which was very exciting. Adam had planted this bush because gooseberry pie was something he remembered from his childhood, and he wanted his children to be able to experience the same. So for our first year getting them, we were very proud of our little, maybe half pint of fruit that we were able to get. And I was already working on some cherry jam, so I just went ahead and added our gooseberries to that pot of cherries. And we are going to make a goose cherry jam out of it. You guys know I'm a big fan of small batch canning. I often do not have whole days to just devote to canning all day long because I'm also trying to do homeschool and take care of a nursing baby and a very mischievous toddler, and also tend to my older children who have different needs in the season of life that they're in. I can't devote an entire day to canning anymore like I could many years ago. And you know that because of that, I started a preservation challenge many years ago called the Every Bit Counts Challenge. And we do it every August on my channel. And the purpose of it is just to can something every day. Not even can, it could be drying something or freezing something or just getting it in the freeze dryer, with the goal of if you do something every day in the month of August, by the end of the month, all of those little things add up. Every bit of that counts towards having a nice full pantry to get you through the winter. And so we've already started just small batch canning like this, a little batch of jam here and there, a little batch of maybe extra green beans, or one jar of pickles that we can put away in the fridge extra to save for later. It's not a lot at this point because the summer garden is just starting to produce. But all of these little projects do have value, and I want to encourage you to just start wherever you're at. You don't have to have bushels and bushels of produce in order to can. You can just do a little batch here and there, blanch a little bit of your extra vegetables and put them in a freezer bag and get them tucked away. It's one more meal of wonderful garden vegetables that you'll be able to enjoy this winter. And then just make sure that you're watching for this August when the challenge starts here on YouTube. Everybody who is participating will be using the hashtag EveryBitCountsChallenge, and they'll all be sharing all the ways that they're trying to do their preservation projects to prepare for the winter. So while there will be days where I will be up to my eyeballs in fruit and tomatoes and all sorts of things and have to do bulk preserving, for most of my summer, this is what I love. I love just being in the kitchen with my little ones, doing a little batch here and there. Something like this jam only took us about 15 minutes to get into the jar, and I have 15 minutes to do a small project like this while also pouring into my little ones and teaching them these skills. So that is my encouragement to you right now. Just start where you're at, involve your family in it. Canning and preserving doesn't have to be something that pulls you away from your family for big days, or a Saturday afternoon where everybody else is having fun and enjoying the summer weather and you're stuck in the kitchen sweating over your canner. It doesn't have to be that way. You can just do little bits here and there. So speaking of enjoying weekends and time together, we had a lovely 4th of July weekend last weekend. Made tons of memories with extended family. We were able to host my family on Saturday the 5th, and we were able to go into my in-laws' house, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, for a July 4th celebration. The teenagers had tons of fun. Hanging out at the house and doing what they love to do. It was just such a lovely time all together. And I hope you all enjoyed that time off work and with your families as well. So that's all we have for this week. Once again, I want to thank the sponsor of this video, Backwoods Home Magazine. Make sure you check out the link in the video description. We're going to be back next week with some more fun preservation. It is preservation season here, so that's pretty much what we're going to be doing the rest of the summer here. We're also going to be showing how we're using fresh produce from the garden in the kitchen. But until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we will see you back here next week, friends. All right, bye.